once a time in which we learned that in school, as one of the anecdotes is, where some powerful king or so received bad messages, and what did he do? He punished the messenger. Today we would say communication broke down. I say communication was totally active, only the message was the one that the king wanted to hear. So the king did not punish the messenger for failed communication, but for successful communication of a message that the king didn't want to hear. Our common interest, I assume, that we consider violence not only undesirable but also unfruitful and of undesirable consequences, and also generating an atmosphere and a situation that one wouldn't like to live in, have been so busy with what to do about it that we forgot what the message is. Violence is a message. It doesn't require an institute of higher learning in order to understand that violence happens through the agency of people who find themselves in undesirable situations. So, for some time, one is so busy with curing the consequences of an unwelcome message. And now one wants to go and punish the messengers. We cannot remove violence if we do not understand its message.
One possible message of violence, that is, when one moves in relations with another in coexistence with oneself in a manner that creates and demands obedience, submission, dominance, what stable hierarchies require in regard to power, control, is an emotional foundation that is negating.
Language could not have arisen without sufficient intimacy in living together in beings, our ancestors, which were not hunters and could not be hunters because they had not the bodyhood for being hunters. They were beings of about this size, they did not have claws, they did not have teeth. They were gatherers and scavengers. We still are scavengers. Whenever there are difficulties, we go scavenging around. We are scavengers, we are gatherers, we are scavengers, and this has been conserved in this history. Okay, what I'm saying is then that love has been the fundamental emotion under which this story could take place and language arose. Not in order that language should arise, but if this took place, then language could arise, and so if it arose, this must have taken place. I mean, this is my argumentation.
Biology of love, the domain of action, behaviors, through which the other arises as a legitimate other, in coexistence with oneself.
Why the word love?
I choose the word love to refer to a dynamic that takes place in daily life and is distinguished in daily life with the word love. I did not use the word love in any domain of expertise, not in the religious domain, not in the psychological domain, but in the ordinary day life domain. If you go in the hills and there is a spider, say, "Oh, beautiful spider," you move around and you are with a friend, your friend can say, "You love animals, don't you?" But if you go in the hill and say, "Spider," your friend can say, "You don't love animals, don't you?"
Biology of love, the domain of actions, behaviors, through which the other arises as a legitimate other, in coexistence with oneself.
There are two very important areas.
Who decides when? Who decides?
Hospital. So you want to pay attention to safe areas like this where there's good tissue. Very safe here.
And this is the safe sex part of the show.
So if you want to find out the person's pain tolerance, there are many ways of doing that. You start off with writing prop, kind of just sort of add a little bit here. And check in with her and see how
Each eye decides when is not time.
We got a high pain tolerance here. Do you want to try 10? Is that 10? Good girl. Okay.
The Ballad of Internalized Oppression. The word came from friends. We had a little tiny problem here. It would only take a couple weeks to clear the whole thing up. Just until that time, I should probably be fairly cautious. Don't give anybody reason to suspect anything. So just to be on the safe side, I bought myself a pair of handcuffs, clamped myself to a bedpost, and threw away the key. Because we always thought if we oppressed ourselves just a little bit, our oppressors would be satisfied and leave us alone. And of course we assumed we'd be nicer than our oppressors were, but actually we were nastier than they ever could have dreamed. When after a week I'd heard nothing from my acquaintances, I decided it would be easiest to assume the absolute worst. So I hired a detective to follow me everywhere I went, had my telephone line wiretapped and recorded all my calls. And just to be on the safe side, I bought a dozen video cameras and installed one in every single room of my house.
I have a friend who was once visiting some friends in Bolivia in the equatorial zone, in the Amazonian zone, and they were having dinner once in the house. And after dinner, they put these chairs back, light a cigarette, smoke, talk, and a big spider came down from the ceiling to the table. And my friend said that when she saw this, she said, "Oh, spider!" She was frightened. But the landlady said, "Oh, don't worry, she comes every night to take some food from the table after we have finished and then go." So this corresponds to the behaviors of which the other, the spider, arises as a legitimate other to this human, and the humans arise as legitimate others to the spider. In these terms, I'm using the word love. As I use it to connote a phenomenon, I can explain that phenomenon scientifically, without the word love interfering with my scientific explanation. And the explanation of that phenomenon has to do with the possible history of recurrent interactions under which these systems drift together in coexistence if they enter in recurrent interaction without destroying each other. Now, the beauty of it is that living systems are such that you can do this practically with all of them, in the domains in which they exist, of course.
Biology of love. A core when de-escalating.
It's like a braiding of having a different premise of the way of looking at violence. It's much more subtle about violence than it was before.
Well, it's real interesting because you have hardly mentioned the word at all.
If you keep going here.
Part 2.
Aggression piece.
Yeah.
So where aggression, yes, aggression surely must have taken place, but aggression leads to disruption, not to permanent coexistence, not to a domain of coordinations of action. Leads to separation. You don't find signs of war all around as you find remains of other people. There are peculiar moments in which you find signs of indications of war. And they are so peculiar that they're questioned. How did they arise and at what moment? What war is as a phenomenon. Yet we, now human beings, live fundamentally in war. Either actual warring against each other or treating our interactions as polemics. Situations of war. We use as our arguments as weapons. We are a culture of warring.
We use our arguments, words, truths, with a capital T, as weapons which require a particular kind of emotioning that is different than the biology of love. Why the word love?
Because I'm interested in explaining daily life. I think that all professional, special, technical conversations are expansions of daily life conversations.
Including scientific ones.
Of course. Chemistry is an expansion of cooking. Physics is an expansion of repairing the roof. Biology is an expansion of taking care of the chicken. Philosophy is an expansion of answering the questions of children. Aha, interesting, huh? This is beautiful. Because children ask honest questions. And science is indeed the careful use of the explanations that we use in daily life, in the coherences of living.